10th at 4 o'clock here in the Anderson Room. Be here or be nowhere. Thank you for your patience, gentlemen. We have a presentation from Mr. Urquhart. If you'd like to come forward, please. You can all come forward if you like. We can move some extra chairs.
Councilor, may I defer to our president, Andrew Woolworth?
Sure, come on up.
Just right here?
Yeah.
Perfect. Mike, come up.
Like you don't want any support here? Come on.
It's perfect to throw the mouse right there. Perfect.
I've got the screen up here.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I've just got my notes
Oh, is
built
that
as
your
piece
son?
through.
Is that your son? Oh.
Perfect. Okay, the mic works. That's always a good check, just to make sure we're good there. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us the time. That our purpose today is to introduce you to some of the assets that some of you have been able to visit us outside and see. That you have at your disposal, and you may not be aware of them right now, and how you can use them to continue to do all the good things you do for the citizens of Richmond. I'd like everybody to close your eyes for a moment and just imagine it's 2 a.m. You've just received a call from the seniors facility where your mother, who is living with dementia, lives. She is missing. Imagine your mother out, underdressed, wandering in the cold, dark night. You call 911. You want all available resources there. To add to things, it's Halloween. We all know what happens on Halloween. It's an incredibly busy night. The RCMP have limited resources available, so they call out South Fraser Search and Rescue. A command post is established. How do you feel? Most likely relief that everything possible is being done. 20 trained searchers arrived, energized and mission-focused. The search manager has already developed a comprehensive search plan. It's communicated to the search teams. You see the dots moving on the map in real time. The search teams fan out and begin their systematic, evidence-based search. Oops. Can I go back? I'm trying to find them. Oh, there's the mouse.
Bottom left, down.
I lost the mouse.
Can I do it?
Yeah, is there a keyboard that we can just press back on by chance? Previous. Oh, that does it. Right click. Oh, right click does it? Perfect. My apologies. The searchers begin searching corridors, travel routes, working with the RCMP to locate surveillance cameras, which provide the clue that may be critical to the mission's success. No stone is left unturned. No hiding place is left unsearched. How would you feel that this intensive methodology is being deployed to find your mother? The search team goes through and, following the solid methodology, locates your loved one. She is a little cold, certainly a little wet, and quite confused, but otherwise unharmed. She's checked out by paramedics and released into your loving arms. What you're looking at here is an example of what a search map would look like. All the squiggly lines are where a searcher has gone through and looked. As you can see, it is very, very, very personnel intensive. Thanks to all of this, you are reunited with your loved one, and all of this was done with very little fanfare. The volunteers head home, some to work, some to bed, some to the rest of their lives. How does this make you feel? What is it that we do? We are a ground search and rescue team. We look for missing people at the request of police. Just to be very clear on this front, because there's a lot of confusion when it comes to search and rescue, that unless the police or the fire service or another requesting agency requests our services, we cannot deploy. So we serve at the request of our requesting agencies. We do inland water as well. Predominantly shoreline searches, that the dikes along the Fraser are a lot easier to search by boat than they are having somebody potentially, well, roll their ankle moving along it. So we have water assets to do that, as well as, unfortunately, from time to time, individuals do choose to enter the water from the bridges. We really search the areas to provide closure for the family. If not necessarily the remains to return to them, that understanding that somebody cared to look. Not something that anybody wants to think about, but it really is important for these families, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is not knowing what happened. That seeing a really detailed, thorough search does give people a little bit of comfort. Unlike a lot of teams, we have a saying, we can't adventure smart ourselves out of our calls. Adventure Smart is a program that we deliver, hug a tree, survive outside, that will deliver it to scout groups, guide groups, school groups, really giving people that skill set to get informed and go outside. We do a lot of work educating kids so that they don't need our services. Generally speaking, that's not our target audience that we're seeing for our responses. That we are looking at seniors who are living with dementia, folks of all ages who have differing abilities, that some may have a cognitive challenge that causes them to get disoriented a lot earlier. And as I alluded to, that the despondency providing that closure for families. Looking at the map, this is a heat map of the last several years of our responses. The bigger the circle, the more person hours that were involved in that response. As you can see, some of our biggest searches were right here in Richmond. In terms of the cause, we keep a listing, and as you can see, about 40% of our calls are related to individuals living with dementia. 23% are folks who are despondent, trying to provide that closure. And it really is a wide range of other factors that will come in that really round up the reasons we're deployed. Our requests for service have been very steadily increasing. The changing demographics that we're all familiar with suggest they will continue to do so. There is going to be more and more need for search and rescue in Richmond as our population ages. We've been doing about 40 to 60 operations for the last several years, that they come in spurts. During the pandemic, that we were down at South Farm Church staging 5 days in a row. It was very, very frequent. We are that team that is, thank you. Predominantly urban, that 1 in 5 British Columbians lives within our service area. One of the questions that was asked as we were doing a little bit of a tour of our command unit before is, how can you help? As you can imagine, with our request for service increasing dramatically, the time that we'd have for fundraising, for potentially doing a bunch more of the maintenance of volunteer labor, that time is now being used to run more and more responses. Things like helping us with fuel, funding to upgrade, replace vehicles, vehicle maintenance, having Public Works do the mechanical side of things. I admit I'm an accountant. I know I turn the key and it goes. All these aspects are really critical to allow us to be there to serve you. Just to give a little bit of the idea of equipping one searcher, and do remember that searches require a lot of people. $300 for a helmet. It's good for 5 years, then for safety reasons it expires, needs to be replaced. Headlamp, that waterproof clothing, a solid jacket. I'm actually potentially being a little anti-conservative on the side of things and going the wrong way, that you're potentially looking at $1,200 for rain, really solid rain gear that's going to keep somebody safe, warm and dry out in this lovely mini atmospheric river we're having right now. Radios, communication, all the stuff very much adds up. And with this, I'd like to thank you for your time and ask if you have any questions.
Councillor Day.
Thank you so much for that, and really enjoyed seeing what it looks like inside. That's amazing. On average, how long do these vehicles last?
The vehicles will range from 20 to 25 years for the big one to 10 to 15. That I am certainly not the expert in the vehicle longevity, that side of things, that if we had the ability to do so, certainly I think we'd be upgrading on a more regular basis just to ensure that we're not going to have that surprise at 2 in the morning when we're trying to get somewhere and have a mechanical issue. That the truck bodies, what we've done for the last several is just swap the body from one chassis to another that had the work done to re and upgrade everything and try to be as fiscally responsible as we can.
And do you send like a wish list of maintenance that you require on the vehicles to the city of Richmond, for example?
We have not, but I'd be happy to do so.
I just thought, if we knew what you were looking for and we happen to have a lull in our schedule, then maybe we could take care of it and, might be able to help everybody out.
Absolutely. That I will defer that to our equipment maintenance folks who are coordinating that piece. As I say, mechanically inclined, I am not so much, but I will get a list from our folks there and build that connection.
Thank you.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for your presentation. The slide that you showed a big heat map in calls in Richmond, what period of time was that over?
That is approximately 3 years.
3 years? And do you have a statistic on how many successful rescues you've had?
It varies. That a lot of the time that what we're going to count as success is the person located. A lot of the time we are going through clearing areas and people see us out there, they're more inclined to get involved to help, that they see that search and rescue's out trying to help, and they keep a sharper lookout.
Yeah.
That about 80% of our calls are resolved with the individual being located.
Oh, wow.
That there are some that we'll never know,
Yeah.
but it is, generally speaking, a pretty high success rate with that integrated side of things from the RCMP with our members and the public that working together to go bring somebody's loved one home.
That's really great. Just one more question. So the support request, I'm just curious, do you look just for mostly individual donations, or do you actually get put in grant requests for all the municipalities and get any sort of regular funding from anywhere?
That's one of the reasons we're really having that connection, is I didn't want to come to you really with my hand out for a significant wish list at this point. Is more starting that conversation. Yeah. But what we have found is that we're spending more and more time on that response, and we're realizing that we're at that breaking point. If we were doing a lot of things with volunteer labor, a lot of vehicle maintenance, a lot of those roles, yeah, that it's just not sustainable anymore. And I'm sure everyone would agree that probably the best effort is really on finding everyone's loved ones, and financial resources and equipment, resources, having that available to allow us to be there to help you in your time of need is everyone's #1 goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Au.
Three questions. I'm sorry that I haven't got a chance to visit the vehicle. Now, my first question is, how big is your budget and what kind of government funding did you receive?
We're operating on approximately $250,000 a year. That the vast majority of that is coming from various levels of government that the province has for several years on a provincial basis, spread amongst all 78 teams in the province, provided $5.961 million. That's been for the last 4 years that we receive. It varies approximately 60 to 70,000 on that side of things. The response when we go at the request of the RCMP to do a search, we do receive mileage and some meals and a bit of a token $500 allowance that pays for all the toner and a little bit of the fuel for the generator, that the command unit that you've seen outside or that was pictured to operate. That it's a little bit of a break even potentially, depending on really the response and how long it goes for. That other things are rounded up from grants from a wide range of funding sources that we certainly do spend a fair amount of time writing grants and building that piece in.
Okay. My second question is related to the command vehicle. So how often do you use the command vehicle? Is it each time you would have to send out the command vehicle, or, which is not the case?
The way we generally operate a search is we plan it as if it's going to go big. That we'll go through, bring in all the resources to bear. It's way better to go big fast.
Okay.
That's the highest chance of somebody having a happy outcome. So we'll scale everything up as if we're going to go through, bring in potential for 50 to 100 people. That the process we follow is very methodical, that the technology support that we have, everything is driven by a custom, amongst our teams in BC, sort of support management program that documents all of our incident command system, which is the system that most agencies operate off of. So all of our paperwork is automated, built that piece in, so that everything is, like I say, designed as if it's gonna go big. So we will deploy that unit on every response.
Okay, good, thank you. My last question is, now we see your request list, right? So again, is there a priority? I mean, in terms of priorities, how would you rate your request? Which one goes first?
That is a great question, that it is a mix of things that are coming in. As I say, I didn't want to come to you with a significant financial ask at this time. Our purpose was more to have that introduction piece. We are onboarding a new group of members in training, new volunteers who, I'm sure you saw the call in the Richmond News over the last month, that we've got approximately 40 individuals who've expressed interest that will probably have 30 new volunteers join us, that over time that all those volunteers are going to be requiring $3,000 to $4,000 worth of equipment, just in terms of personal issue, to enable them to be safe out there.
Councillor Heath?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I guess my questions are around, I know some aspects of the search and rescue. I've utilized in searching people in Vancouver, that Alzheimer's disease that have gone missing and stuff like that, especially on the South Shore when I was in charge of District 3. And we use Vancouver Fire Service, which is probably, then it was one part of the Hussar part of it, but they were specific to identifying people. And then on the North Shore, we used North Shore Search and Rescue for people that went lost or got lost on the various mountains there, Cypress mainly, and of course Grouse Mountain for the North Van RCMP. I guess my question is, how would you integrate, for example, if we were looking at something in Richmond with, similar to an urban search and rescue team coordinated by our fire department, but would utilize the engineering staff and certainly the RCMP. How would you see yourself? Do you see yourselves as kind of an interim until that's set up and ready to go? Or do you see some type of coordination with South Fraser and with the local authorities?
Just to clarify, are you looking at a situation where you've got a heavy urban search and rescue, a building collapse, that side of things? You're looking at a missing person?
Either. it could be as simple as a missing person, a missing child, or an elderly person, or it could be, well, I don't think you'll be here if we have an earthquake and a disaster, you'll be where you
We'll try.
are. But how would you like integrate with that? The radio system you have, and I think you're part of the ECOM network, are you not? So you will have access, or do you have to pick up a local radio so you can access, for example, with police and fire in Richmond?
We are not currently on ECOM. That is one of the thoughts that has been proposed, and we're having some discussions to see if that makes sense, that all SAR teams in BC, that you mentioned North Shore Rescue, that we have frequencies allocated by the province, as well as repeaters that sort of are in a common book for all 78 search and rescue teams in BC, that right now we do not have the direct ability to talk with fire without potentially a portable in our command unit. I know there's some discussion about us having a radio to interop.
Absolutely, should be. So for example, if a missing child in Richmond, the RCMP are doing the initial primary response to locate it. They need additional resources, for example, to search the South Bank or even the North Bank. How would you then communicate? They would set up their incident command post. How would you then communicate and integrate with what they're already doing?
Generally speaking, we'll have a liaison member from their agency that's requested our services, that we operate in a unified command at all times, that legally speaking, that a police officer is in charge of the search for missing person, that we are an assisting agency. What we'll generally have is the member sits in the back of our unit, and we're really coordinating that, looking at everything that's coming in from an investigative lens, that we've got cameras here. There's some tasks that are way more suited to a police officer to do. People generally react a little bit better to door knocks and requests to search private property from a uniformed police officer than they may from a search and rescue volunteer. So there's certainly splits of tasks that we'll do, that our incident action plan is coordinated and agreed to jointly. So it is very much a unified command, that we'll have that member who is our liaison who's working through things there.
And I'm assuming you have drone capability.
At the moment, that we have a partner agency, that the Civil Air Search and Rescue Association, who provides our drones, that we are looking at having in-house drone capability just to make that a little bit faster response time. And
There was a significant hiccup with the MCR that, so we were not allowed to use drones until recently. So that is now something we are spinning up.
You've got the airport nearby, so, but that's it. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you. Just I think two question areas. One is kind of a follow-up on the wish list and ask, do other municipalities like Surrey, Delta, Langley, do they fund any specific amount of equipment or requests on an annual basis?
At this time that Surrey has been providing us some in-kind space, we've got a triple-wide trailer that we're using as a training center, as well as they've been providing our reimbursement of our ICBC insurance premiums for our vehicle, that we are having conversations with Delta as well as White Rock to go through and make sure that all the communities that we serve are able to support us and build this piece through, because we support everybody and we want to make sure that everyone is helping us, because we can't do this alone.
Okay, thanks. My second question is, I used search and rescue for the first time last summer when I was with a hiking group of students on Vancouver Island, and one girl really busted up her knee. And so it was through satellite phone, we contacted the lodge, and then they requested search and rescue from Chosen, from Souk, from a few other areas. Where on here you said that you're at the request of the police. What about at the request of Marine Search and Rescue or Richmond Fire or other areas?
Predominantly that we receive requests, for missing people from the police, that we have a wide range of requesting agencies, that the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness sort of owns the SAR program in BC and sort of provides that support, work safe coverage, that kind of thing, that fire services, that police agencies, that the Coroner Service, Parks Canada, that the Independent Investigations Office are all our requesting agencies. So any of those can go through either calling our dispatch line directly or through the province's coordination center, request our services.
I appreciate that, and thanks for the
And I
tour.
forgot BC Ambulance. Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. And, um, I think maybe we should do a referral to staff to just analyze and give some options for formal relationship or support that we might have. And it could include funding or in-kind or equipment. And also maybe if they can look at, if it's appropriate to invite you to attend, whether as a guest or whatever else, if it's appropriate, because I know we're having an emergency preparedness thing that the city's putting on. And I know you've asked for new volunteers, but here's a group of people that'll be self-selected showing up for an emergency preparedness thing, and they might be a reasonable group to engage with one way or the other, whether they become volunteers or supporters or educators or choir singers for you. Councillor McNulty?
Before we go there, I would suggest that we ask staff to look at all organizations that we interface with, including Marine Rescue. And also, I'd like to get a comment from the RCMP and Fire Rescue of how they integrate with this group and our other groups. I brought it up the other day that we don't have an emergency response area if we come up with a disaster. And I think this is a good stimulation to ask those questions, not just this group, but all groups. If the earthquake happens tomorrow, we got a problem, Houston, a big problem. So I think that would be the referral, and that would include these folks, but also Marine Rescue, John Horton's group guiding people up and down. You brought up Marine, et cetera. So if that's in the referral, I would like to send that back to staff to make it a bigger task, because we need to address this, but we also need to know what we've got now and how does our own, we'll call it safety group, or what, a rescue group or whatever that we see at the workshop now and again. I don't even know what they do, but they're all involved in this. So I think it's a good start, and then we can possibly start looking at resources and what we're doing and bringing people in.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you.
Does everyone understand that? Okay.
I'd second your
Okay.
referral.
Are we good with that? So referring to staff to analyze the South Fraser Search and Rescue, in addition, the other groups that provide services in Richmond, including the Marine Search and Rescue. John,
I don't know what
whatever,
else we
whatever
do,
other
but
groups, and whatever other groups
think
may
we
be
better
supplying
find
it.
out.
And then give options for formal relationship support and
Yeah, leave it to staff.
invitations to attend city events, not necessarily. Okay,
Yeah,
second,
good.
everyone in favor? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good. Thank
Thanks
you,
for coming.
Thank you.
Welcome. There's a lot of uniforms. Well, because he's like kids cadet kid.
Okay, no, I think we gotta find out, because we don't have it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long your agenda is, that we can stay set up outside for a while longer, if anybody would like a tour. I'm not sure how long your agenda is tonight.
Do you want them to stay? Yeah, I think the rest of our meeting's gonna go for a while, so I think we'll see you.
Excellent. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
Hopefully we don't see you in Richmond then. That'd be good news.
You know what? We're needed to help, then we're here to help, right?
Thank you. Okay, item number 2, Mr. Corrado.
To the chair, I have nothing to add, and I'm open to questions.
Counselor Hobbs?
Sorry about that. I was slow on the button. Thank you, and through the chair. Just one question. There seem to be a few more complaints regarding RVs parking on different streets. I know one came through and I forwarded it on to you. So my question is about the bylaw and its ability to deal with vehicles where people are sleeping on the streets, and what tools we have to address that, other than just the 72-hour bylaw that we have and the 3-hour parking bylaw. Can you just touch on that?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, yes, as you alluded to, there's a clause within a section in the traffic bylaw, which is the 72-hour. Basically, no vehicle can park for more than on a city street for more than 72 consecutive hours. That's the principal tool, and that with that is a $50 ticket and also the ability to impound. That's the principal tool that's used. In addition to that, there is an older trailer-based bylaw that goes back to the 1970s as well. That has what's known as a house car that prohibits that for being parked on city streets. It doesn't have the same efficiency as the traffic bylaw because there is the ability to impound and then issue tickets. So those are the principal instruments that we use when it comes to trailer occupying a street on a public property. If it's on private property, the private property owner can seek a tow permit, can seek remedies vis-a-vis provincial trespassing and the RCMP. But the city and property use staff, bylaw staff will make that first that outreach to the property owner, the private property owner, and work with them to get the vehicle moved.
Okay, so I'm just curious, since it's from the 1970s, it was probably, addressing issues from a different era that, they didn't see like we do today. So is the tool effective and efficient enough, or would it be reasonable maybe just ask for a memo clarifying a little bit, because I'm hitting you up off the top here?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, definitely staff can get back to it with a memo on that particular issue.
Okay, that'd be great. That's good for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, thank you. Just following up, and I'm glad you brought it up. Do we know how many complaints we have and how many tickets have we given to recreational vehicles and or vehicles occupied and or unoccupied on city streets or in city parking lots?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, I don't have at my ready the number of tickets, but I do have at my ready the number of files we've had this year in regards to RVs. So thus far in 2024, we've had year-to-date 107 RV-related files with a potential nexus to homelessness or those people living in their RVs. And that's down 22% from 2023, at which year-to-date at that point, we were at 138. So a little bit of a decrease.
I guess where I'm leading, following up, and I'm not going to say where, but and a number of us are probably aware, there are many people, we worry about across the street, but there are many people in Richmond living out of their cars. That's why I said occupied and unoccupied. It's not as if Joe Smith parked a recreation vehicle outside and blocked my driveway, et cetera, and has left it there because they're not camping till next year. I'm talking about somebody that is trying to survive and down in the parking lot with a towel over the front windshield and sleeping in there because they have nowhere else to go. So I guess that creates a problem, and it's something I think we need to look at because Richmond has, and I'm sure the RCMP and others can tell us, there are many people living in there, and there's some across the street up in the parkade. And I'm not going to rat on them. I hope you don't go there. Please don't send a bylaw officer there. But no, I'm serious. They're there. So I guess that's, you brought up a question. Yes, the nuisance thing and the reality on the street today. They're not all across in the tent over there. Okay? So I just throw that out. I don't know what the solution or the answer is, but I think we shouldn't put our head in the sand. We should be thinking about, the issue is increasing. I don't know. Maybe we do need the recreational vehicle park if somebody would take it up and ask people to pay the $1 per night or something like that or whatever to come and park and have facilities. So I just leave it at that.
Councillor Heed?
Yes, just moving away from that for a second, if I can get you to refer to page number 9, And I'm making an assumption here, under zoning regulations, we're talking about 123 for 2024. Does that include truck parking on ALR?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, yes, that would.
So what are our numbers of truck parking complaints that we're getting or enforcement we're taking on trucks and commercial vehicles parked on ALR?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I can get back to you on that. I believe it's under 6 this year. There are a number of violations, however, associated with certain files, and most recently of note, there was a rather large judgment that was launched against one of these commercial vehicle related zoning violations of $100,000 recently. That judgment was upheld in an appeal process, and that's also been put on title against the property owner and the associated individual businesses as well.
Thank you, and I can discuss this because it will be discussed in open general purposes next week. There will be a motion coming up with respect to truck parking on ALR. It's a problem, and Mr. Corrado, the feedback I'm getting is that the enforcement is somewhat inconsistent, and that's kind of adding fuel to the fire, where some people think that they are being targeted and others who have multiple vehicles parked are not ticketed. So hopefully we can come to some resolution on that. Thank you.
Councillor Day?
Thank you very much. Thanks for your report. So if a person is living in their vehicle and we encourage them to stay, particularly now that the winter shelter has opened at South Arm, can they leave their vehicle in the parking lot?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, typically people that are living in their vehicle, they do have a form of shelter. If, for example, the temperature gets quite extremely low and there's no sort of safe fuel, or the RCMP have that ability through the province and legislation to compel someone to seek shelter if it's very dire. For the most part, staff conduct regular outreach along with community social development bylaws as well, where they work with individuals to seek appropriate shelter. We encounter people sometimes with medical issues, and we've been able to expedite that process. And by and large, the clearance time when a file comes in, this is again an average, is around 9 days from when we get the initial call to where this person moves on. And there are exceptions, of course, people with different conditions that make it a little bit more difficult. But our primary emphasis is to seek the best solution for everyone involved. That's from the outset. There's a prevention connection aspect all the way up through ticketing and enforcement and towing and so on.
Well, I mean, staff have done a phenomenal job of being very compassionate and dealing with the underlying issues that has put someone in that position that they're using their vehicle as shelter. But I just wanted to kind of repeat the question. If they are willing to go to the shelter, can they park this vehicle somewhere near the shelter?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, staff would find a legal place where they could park the vehicle. Again, as alluded, there's a 72-hour rule, so if that vehicle's parked in excess of 72 hours, it would no longer be legal. But most certainly, staff would have that discretion to say if they're in a shelter, it's a very inclement situation and there's sort of a life safety issue. We wouldn't enforce that aspect of the bylaw if it was a life safety issue here.
Well, 9-day clearance is pretty darn good when you're dealing with such complex issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Second, all in favor? Thank you. Fire rescue. Is that where we are already? No. Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I have nothing further to add to my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Heed?
Yes, I'm going to jump right to the opioid situation here in Richmond. And I noticed you had only a couple of calls documented this month, but I believe I was looking at the coroner stats, and I'm not sure if it was for September or not, that we had an increase in deaths here in Richmond. Am I confusing September and October on our deaths? Anyone, you know, Chief?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I wouldn't be able to comment on that right now. These stats that we're presenting here are the records management system calls that we know we attended for that month. So if there was an unfortunate death that occurred from that, we wouldn't be aware of that.
Yeah, and Chief, you and I have talked about this previously, probably about a year ago, or when you started providing this statistical information for us, which is great. And I think that's part of the problem is you guys are doing a great job. The RCMP are doing a great job. The missing link here is that data from whether it's Coastal Health, most likely, or BCEHS, when we start to have those particular calls. And I'm not sure if that's something we want to address now, or, and I think we talked about this previously, is that information doesn't come to us in a timely fashion from Coastal Health. No, we don't get it at all. So I'm just wondering if you have any comment with respect to that, or how we could just use that compilation of information to really get a true picture, or, you know, are we going up or are we going down on the opioid abuse calls we're getting? I know the police have done a great job now, and I'll be commenting on it when the chief is here, with compiling information on specific calls leading to drug complaints, but just on those tragic deaths.
Thank you. Through the chair again, Councillor Heed, I think the only comment I could make is that in the last number of months, with some direction from this committee, our outreach campaign included some prevention messaging. And so all the people that do follow our outreach squad would have seen that. We are also deeply embedded in the elementary schools, and that's going to be changing to expand into the full elementary and secondary in the next year and a half. So that messaging will continue on there too. It would be inappropriate for me to comment if any of that outreach that we're providing is impacting these calls for service or not. I do have to agree with you wholeheartedly that the picture that I provide here is only one snapshot of what we deal with. And if we're not called to an incident, we wouldn't be aware of it. Any of those patients that attend the hospital would be managed by BC Ambulance and therefore received also by Vancouver Coastal Health, and there would be theoretically records there.
Thanks, Chief.
If I may, Councillor Au is our liaison to the Vancouver Coastal Health, Richmond Health Services Local Governance Liaison Group. I don't know if you're getting any reports on that, or if you can request those reports, and then they could come to community safety as something, so. Okay. Councillor Day?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So years ago, I remember going to the hotel out on Sea Island, and there was this massive preparedness drill. It was like in real time, and you know, there was a drill going on, and everyone had different colored shirts and vests on, and they were coordinating a large emergency drill. And I know we have the public emergency preparedness seminar coming up shortly for the public, but when's the last time that we did a full-scale drill like that?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, it's been some time since we've had a full-time or a full-scale exercise like that. We will be bringing back some information and a presentation to this committee, as we promised in December, about the state and the status of the emergency program here in the city and what resources are available and the interactions we have with other groups, and then also to be able to give you a more accurate list and schedule about some upcoming events that you would be involved in or invited to, as well as what other groups we access and practice with in the city.
Well, I think that would be valuable because it's no good if we're working in silos, and what that drill really, all of council was invited. You were there, Councilor, and Councilor McNulty. And it was really amazing to see the coordination between the various groups, everything from water to, I think there was airplanes and helicopters involved. And it was really, really amazing to see that camaraderie. And I just would be very much supportive of doing something like that again, because with COVID, everything kind of got stalled for so long, and sometimes it's good to reset everything, so.
It is. Thank you for that, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you very much for the report and all the hard work that you all do. I just wanted to respond to Councillor Heed's question. It was reported in the news is what it was, and it was 4 unregulated drug deaths, 3 in August, 1 in September, is what was just reported last week. So I guess that means that 1 of the 3 opioid calls in September that we see here was fatal. So that's just an answer to that. And appreciate all the comments from everyone else. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks. Move receipt. All in favor? Thank you. Any briefing notes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one item I'd like to share with your committee briefly, and thank you for the opportunity. Just referencing back to the outreach squad that we have at RFR, I couldn't be more proud of the work they do. And on top of a lot of the awards and accolades that they've received over the last number of years, they just recently were recognized by the Ontario Association of Fire Public Educators, and we're requested to go to Ajax, Ontario, and be the keynote speaker for the recent symposium. So we supported that trip back to Ontario for them, and they presented, and were acknowledged by other public educators in the country for the work that they do, and in particular the initiative that they've developed, the online program that is just being trialed in the elementary schools right now. There probably isn't a person in kindergarten grade 4 that doesn't know who that squad is right now, and so we're going to be expanding that as of next year. So I just wanted to share that with your committee.
Councillor Glanders? Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't turn you off from last time, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, RCMP monthly activity report. Chief Superintendent.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, councillors and staff. I have nothing to add to the report. Happy to take your questions.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the report, Chief. I was just really pleased to read on page 38 that we're back to doing the DARE classes in the schools, and I love that every child in grade 5 has the opportunity to learn about the DARE program. But when I was assigned to the Youth Advisory Committee, one of the things that they said is that's great for grade 5, but what about high school? So when I read that there was 51 proactive school visits at secondary schools, I was really pleased to hear that. Can you tell a little bit about what those visits were about and how you reacted or interacted with children, or teenagers?
Yes, thank you for that, through the chair to Councillor Day. Our officers from our youth section are actively involved both at the elementary and at the secondary school level as well. We have really good relationships with the schools and the counselors, and our presence in schools is welcomed and allows our officers to engage with our students and have that presence in there. In addition to the DARE program, we do have about, I think, a dozen or maybe 16 different programs. And so those are discussed and advertised at the secondary school level. They could be from, sexting to drug abuse, alcohol, fentanyl, and all that. So those programs are available through us to be delivered to the schools. And in addition to that, we also have a very strong partnership with ICBC. And every year we reach out to hundreds of students in talking about road safety and other issues related to the Motor Vehicle Act. So yeah, it's just a continuous overall efforts, proactive efforts by our school liaison unit to continue to engage with elementary and secondaries too.
Oh, well done. That's exactly what we need to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, thank you very much for the report. Appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate hearing those comments, but I'm still a strong supporter of police liaisons in every school and single officer in the school, knowing how it worked in Vancouver for years and years and years, and nothing but benefits as a result of it, but it hasn't happened. I just want to put a couple of kudos out to the community group, getting out in the community, handing out decals to the seniors, and that sort of was, I showed up to the community group over at, when they were doing TNT in Lansdowne. They were having a leaf and the reflectors and stuff, and I think we should be doing more of that. And obviously, if it's a money factor, I think that's something that even the city should be involved in contributing, whether it be, I call them the rulers, as you put on your leg, your wristbands to be reflective for older people, but not just older people, anybody that's walking on the street, and especially in our bike line down Railway. I think we should have reflectors there too. So on it. And the other, throw a kudo out, they did a fantastic job, and I think they should be told, if you would. And also the Speed Watch group. They are very, very unselfish heroes. And, watch the committee group and the Speed Watch, et cetera, even, as late as our Remembrance Day, they're all out there in their red jackets, and they're doing just a super job. And I don't think we recognize our people enough, and we very often take them for granted because they're there and they do it so subtly, and they don't want to be bragging about it. They just go about their business. And I also wanted to comment you on the women in policing. I think it's extremely important. Somebody who worked very hard for equality and opportunities for women in many areas as a counselor in the schools. Thank you for that in your report. So I think we're in good hands, and I thank you very much for everything that everybody's doing. We can't complain in this community. The community is safe. I'll say it again. The community is safe.
Thank you.
Councillor Heed?
Thank you, Chair. Well, that's thanks to the great chief we have here. I just want to point out something, and I want to thank Mr. Warzel for being responsive to what I talked about. I have a memo which we all received on October 25th, and it's additional information to questions posed by our committee in September 10th, and you recall it was regarding the drug issue. And if you look at page 31 here, you look at drugs, we're just talking about offenses here, and they're down. But given the fact we've had all this media attention on super labs and cartels being linked to what's going on, the Chief's organized crime section just did a phenomenal case on a major drug trafficking organized crime group. You can't get better than that. But you would think that, well, and yes, it is a safe place, but the drug issue is going down. It's really not. And so Mr. Warzel put together a categorization of drug offenses, and he talked about drug-related calls for services. So the calls for services are a little bit different than actual criminal code offenses there. And you'll see, for example, just, 49 total number of drug-related calls. There's various categories, but I'm assuming through the prime call, I understand it was painstaking. Your analysis had to go through every call. There were 49 type calls, suspected 37 and 12 confirmed. That is such valuable and great information from my point of view. And, talking to Mr. Warzel, and, you and I have discussed this too, is, boy, that would be great to have that information available monthly so we can really start to track that pattern on the complaints that come in. So we know if it's just someone sensationalizing the amount of drug calls in a particular area, or it's actual fact. And I think this information will certainly do all of us a lot of good in ensuring that Richmond remains a safe community and gets rid of the hyperbole with respect to what's going on in certain areas. So, Chief, just your comments on that, and again, express my appreciation to your analysts that did this, and Mr. Warzel, and how we can make this part of your monthly, or if we can, process.
To the chair, to Councillor Heath, I know it was an extremely strenuous and labor-intensive task for our analyst, and I know it can place tremendous amount of demands on our a small criminal analyst unit. I will have to have further discussions with Edward Zell and in seeing if there are other ways possible, that it may include having an additional analyst, someone who's able to take on the extra workload, because currently the way with the workload and the number of people we have in our criminal analyst unit and the demands and priorities that they have on their plate at the moment, it'll be difficult to do it, but we'll have to look into different options.
Again, and expressing that, and I know I've gone over your requests for additional resources going forward, which council will make a decision at that point. But this is the era we're in right now on intel-led policing. And having that accurate information in a timely fashion is so important, not only from my experience in law enforcement, I think the chief can attest to that on how he deploys his resources, but certainly and we have to realize we're part of this too, from a local council point of view of really a true picture of what's going on in Richmond. So, I'm hoping that you can come up with something where we can, as a council, can consider how we can get you in at the high end of the intel-led era of policing we're in.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you. Two areas of question. I'll start with just a little background. So I brought up previously the issue around Hamilton and the Smith and Gilly intersection, which is kind of crazy in the morning because there's a school right there and there's construction all over. And that we previously approved funding for municipal staff to be in the future community police office, which is not built yet because everything's delayed. And just trying to find out if that funding that was pre-approved could go towards traffic management. So I was in communication with Ed Morzell, and it was determined that the funds from the policing budget are not available for that traffic management and pedestrian safety purposes. So my question related to that is my wife, who walks my daughter to school every day, she's noticed a few days recently where one of our Richmond RCMP vehicles was parked. So the officer was not out directing traffic or anything, but it was just parked there. And she could see the difference in lack of violations from drivers and safety issues just by having the vehicle there. And I know years ago, because there is no office out there yet, the central detachment was directing a vehicle or two to start the shift kind of out in Hamilton, and perhaps park at the fire hall, which I've only seen a vehicle or RCMP vehicle parked there once. Could they maybe be directed during all this construction time to be parked by the school? Is that already a direction you've given?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Wolf, it is an expectation of our officers who are assigned to that zone to work out of that area and utilize currently the space that we have available at with our RFR friends. But presence is deterrence, and we have utilized that tactic. But our road safety unit is also quite proactive. They have to service the entire city, and Hamilton is also on their priority list. So sometimes members of the public may or may not see our officers there, but we do conduct proactive operations, targeted enforcement, and utilize our volunteer group as well for education and prevention means as well.
Appreciate that. Through the chair, just one final question. In regards to in the youth section and perhaps getting into secondary schools, I was just bared witness to the Crime Stoppers presentation that happened at McNair with one of my classes. I went down, and the 45-minute presentation from the staff person from Crime Stoppers was really informative and targeted to that age group. Got a lot of discussion happening from the students. It was kind of focused in two areas, one on drug use and one on gang recruitment. There was no Richmond RCMP there. I thought perhaps that could have been a good partnership or venue to get into the secondary schools. So I don't know if you've considered that, or would it be a completely separate presentation, but I just saw a good fit there.
Yes, through the chair to Council Ward. The more relationships we have, the more collaboration we have, it's better for the community. So I will definitely take that into consideration and pass it on to our community engagement team members so that we reach out to our partners with Crime Stoppers.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion? Second, all in favor? Thank you. Any briefing?
Yes, Madam Chair, just two quick things, just a quick update on our Halloween operation plans. It's a good plan developed by our member with respect to the Halloween night. Extra resources were deployed, and there were 15 extra calls that we received during Halloween, somewhat Halloween related, but mostly nuisance kids and firework related calls. Nothing significant that we encountered this year, similar to previous year. So it was well done. It was good night by our officers, and obviously, great to see the community out and have fun, and especially at the young level too. We didn't encounter too much from them as well. So overall, it was a good evening. Secondly, the members of the council here and our citizens have read in the media about a couple serious accidents that we've had here in Richmond. Last week, a 33-year-old female victim was seriously injured, Steveston and number 2 road area. And a young student was recently injured in a motor vehicle accident as well. So, it just goes to show that, days are getting shorter, and with the rain and other factors, it is difficult for people to see. There was a mention of reflectors, last week at the Brighouse station, we handed out over 3,000 traffic safety reflectors with the motto being, be seen and be safe. And so it's just, and we have so many outreach programs happening, and through our social media, through our print media, just educating the public to be cautious and, take that extra time, extra few seconds to ensure that you are safe before you cross the road. So those are serious accidents having a lifelong impact on these individuals. And we just want to make sure that our community stays safe and just be mindful of the days and the weather when they're crossing the roads. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Galanders, you have a question?
I do, thank you. I just think this might be an appropriate time to ask this, but there were no hate incidences reported in September, but it is mid-November now, and I'm just wondering if there were any hate-related incidences around October 7th relating to anti-Semitism. We've been hearing that it's on the rise. I think we received an email about concerns about it on the rise, and I don't know how much it's on the rise in Richmond, but we know it's on the rise, unprecedented levels around the country and the world right now. And so we'll be coming up to Hanukkah soon, and I just want to know if there's a plan or what kind of response we've got going to that issue.
Yes, through the chair to Constable Galanders. We have been involved, I have been personally involved with our, Jewish communities and Muslim community and the community overall since October 7th of last year. And specific to your question, we didn't encounter anything of concern. And we are fully engaged. Our teams are fully engaged with our, communities that are impacted. And further to that, we are also very mindful of the tensions that are happening, the diplomatic tensions between Canada and India. So we are ahead of that. We are proactive, and we have plans in place. And yes, we'll continue to be responsive, and we'll continue to be proactive in addressing anything that surfaces.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Managers' reports, do we have any? Sorry? No? Okay, so we'll move adjournment and we'll go back into closed.
I thought,
Sorry? Oh, sorry. Press your button.
press your button.
Councillor Heed, you have the floor.
I have a referral motion, Madam Chair, related to business regulation.
Can you say it out loud so that it
Yes,
can be
yes, I
recorded?
can. My motion is that staff draft a regulation for council making a mandatory requirement that persons engaged in specific business activities must accept forms of payment in addition to cash.
Do we have a second? Second? Okay. Would you like to speak on it, please?
Yes, certainly we have occurrences here in Richmond where we have people that are operating businesses that have business licenses that will only accept cash and will not accept any other forms of payment. And I think given the fact that people don't necessarily carry cash to the extent they used to around, given the fact that we have other problems related to cash-only businesses through our systems here in Canada, I think as a local government, businesses that are operating responsibly in our community should have an option for people either to pay by cash or some other form of payment.
Check, money order, American traveler's checks. Councillor McNulty?
Quick question. Can you read nowhere in there says that you have to pay except cash. And I know a business that doesn't accept cash, and I guess that's my concern as well to add to it. So could you read it again just to make sure the wording, because the wording sounds like it's yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry, hang on.
I'll read it again. Now, if
Please.
you want to amend it, you go ahead and amend it.
No, I don't want to amend it. I want to make
Motion
it clear.
that staff draft a regulation for council making a mandatory requirement that persons engaged in specific business activities must accept forms of payment in addition to cash.
Okay, that's what I meant. Okay, we got that? Good. Okay. I'm happy. I just want to make sure it's there. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I have a question. What are specific businesses?
Ones that have business licenses in the city of Richmond.
So all businesses?
Correct.
Okay,
That have business licenses.
yes, business licenses. I get that. That was my question. Okay. Any other comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, passes. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay. Adjourn the open meeting now, and we'll call the closed meeting back to order.